Hello, everyone. Welcome to the LEINN Arts talk. As you know, every week we invite to this space to people that are interested from the cultural and creative industries. LEINN Arts is the official European Bachelor's degree in Entrepreneurial Leadership and Innovation in Arts and Creative Industries by Mondragon Universitatea, Traveling University, and LAS2. And this week, we are very happy to have Fernando Yáñez here, that he is one of the most important music manager in Spain and internationally. He is one of the managers of the Summer Kids Festival in Barcelona, and he has also been developed the roster of exceptionally successful in electronic music with different artists like John Talabot or Pional. He also has been working in the music producer Cinnamon, and in 2010 he founded Life in Dallas, which is a management and booking agency with different artists such as John Talabot, Pional, Delorean, Sau Poler, Agorazein, Bflecha, C.Tangana, Erik Urano, and a lot more. So regarding the first question, Fernando, welcome and thank you for being here. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you. When you were young, did you have clear what did you want to study, or did you have clear that you want to work on the music field?
Not at all. I mean, I was someone who grew up not knowing what I wanted to do when I was older. I went to school in the UK, in London, primary school, secondary school, and university. In university, I did Spanish and sociology. Clearly subjects who someone who doesn't know what they want to do in the future will choose. And then I went to Barcelona to do a course in audiovisual translation, which is all to do with like dubbing and subtitles for films and audiovisual work. But even then, I was 24. I still didn't know I was going to be working in the music industry in the future, or wanted to work in the music industry in the future. I always had friends who had worked in the music industry, and I always liked music, but never thought of the opportunity or choosing to work in music, really. I mean, it happened in a way accidentally, how I got into music, but at the same time, once I was in the sector, it was something I saw that I was really interested in and liked, and I've been working in the industry since probably last 14 years, more or less. No, quite some time.
And how was the process? How did you realize that you wanted to work on the music industry, and you said, yes, I'm working on the music field?
I think kind of once I was in and I was working, I've done very diverse jobs in the sector, and how I got in was, like I said, very accidentally. I always liked music. I've always gone to concerts, listened to music. I assume like a lot of people have. But when I was in Barcelona working in the audiovisual world, doing like subtitles, I was in an agency. We were taking care of films and doing subtitles for films. I saw a job description in the web of Razzmatazz. Mm-hmm. And I was actually going to a concert to see the Arctic Monkeys before they released their first album with some friends who were coming from somewhere else in Spain. And I clicked on it, and they were looking for someone to do press, like PR. And at the time, I didn't even know what PR really was. It was like, okay, well, this sounds interesting. They're looking for someone who knows Spanish and English. And I decided to send the CV. And like, I'd never worked in the music industry. And I sent the CV, and from there, they gave me a call. They did 2 interviews. And a month later, I was working in a company that not only ran a record label, which was my job description was to help do the press for a record label, but the company ran Razzmatazz. At the time, they were organizing like 3 or 4 festivals. And so in the end, you ended up entering a company that covered all the different areas of what a music company can be, you know. So you ended up learning a lot being there, and you know, I was 27, 28 at the time, and you're also with a lot of young people, and it was just a really interesting mix of people and everything. And obviously within that company, you're doing so many things, from, you know, record label, press, marketing, booking, production. You sort of got to learn a little bit of how everything works, and see the possibilities of being able to work in different things if you wanted to, or like to do one thing more than another. So I guess in the last 14 years, I've sort of jumped around a little bit in different things, you know, of being able to do and seeing things that maybe interest me more than others. But in the end, everything is always interesting to learn a bit of everything, so you know how the whole industry works better, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And also you have a better understanding when you speak to other people and they explain things, you understand things slightly better.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it's really interesting to know, like, for these people that they don't have university or academic studies into the music industry, or how did you learn the things, or which elements or materials or channels help you to learn?
Well, like I said, I never studied anything with regards to how it works in music. I learned working. The first company we worked for was a company called Cinnamon, which, like, they did all these things. It was a company that started very young with people who had never worked in this. So we sort of learned a lot of the things on the go, you know, like through trial and error, as they say, you know. So when I was working in the record label, when I started, obviously my boss had done PR before, so they taught me how PR worked. Back in the day, there was no social media. Like, that was 14 years ago. When I was there, it was when Facebook started, but still wasn't as obviously as influential as it is now. And it was just, you know, how things worked, press notes, databases, getting in contact with the press, which works differently now, and, you know, promos and all that. And so I managed to learn how to do that there, and from there, just working with other people, just started learning, and then doing things by myself and learning by myself as well how things work. So a lot of the things I've done is learned having to work and learn how it works, and then sometimes making mistakes and saying, okay, well, this doesn't work this way, or this doesn't work that way. And it's been, I think, a process like that, because maybe there was, but maybe at the time there wasn't as many music courses or stuff like that, being able to learn from people in the industry. Now I think the industry, at least in Spain, feels a little bit more mature, where people have been doing things a certain time and can sort of pass on certain things on to other people, and other people will learn those and change them, update them. You know, everything changes all the time in what we do. So it's interesting to keep updated on how things are developing.
Mm-hmm. This is really interesting. And 10 years ago, in 2010, you created Life in Dallas. So why did you create this, and how was the process of creating something from scratch?
The process was like very natural, because like I said, we were working in Cinnamon, and this was more or less when the job crisis started in 2008, 2009, and the company was going for financial trouble. And in the company, obviously, you're always meeting musicians, other people, people who have projects, and we were trying to sign a project to the company, to the record label, called the Requesters, which were a duo of electronic guys. One was Oriol Rivelora, and the other one was Alex Ferrer. And we wanted to sign them, but the company was going through so much trouble, financial, that they couldn't. So in the end, I was sort of doing everything already. So I sort of spoke to the guys, and it was like, okay, let me just do everything as it is, you know, and me become sort of a manager. And like I said, it was trial and error. We started releasing EP. I sort of learned how it was to contact labels, contracts, and really it started off like that. And then from then, Oriol, who was on the Requesters, started the project John Talabot. At the time, Oriol also worked in Cinnamon. We were working together, so he was literally across the table from me. and he would come into the office and say, "Oh yeah, I've just started this new project. You know, what do you think of the music?" And it really started off like that, and working together a bit. You know, at first we were friends. You know, friends working together and seeing how it works, and then everything just started developing from there. And the projects obviously started growing, and then we started signing other artists. Like I think Pional was the second artist, and other artists started coming in, and also learning how to work. You know, it was all by ourselves, of speaking to labels, seeing how labels worked, seeing how the PR worked on an international level, because obviously things in Spain work a certain way, but then, you know, just a simple thing like in the UK, how in the UK there's a label, there's a PR, there's a publisher, there's a booking agent, is different to how Spain was in 2008, because the companies were more like a 360 model of the company was your label, was it? So it was just learning how everything worked to a certain point, and just started to sign, like, you know, a few more artists. You know, when the sort of trap thing started happening in Spain, we signed Agorazein and C.Tangana, which then Kigo came into live in Dallas, and he took them on and worked them on there. And so it was just step by step, every day learning everything from how it was to sign artists, start working them from the records, to then working the DJ side, the live side, and touring with the artists and learning that side of the business as well, which is completely different. You know, when John released his album, the album worked, and then all of a sudden we were doing a live show and traveling around the world, seeing how that works. And obviously there was things that we didn't even think of, visas, production, and it was all just a huge learning curve that really kind of, over time, you realize you made some mistakes in the past, but it also helps you learn on the spot, which is slightly different from maybe learning another way. But it was something kind of that happened very naturally through relationships with artists, and then, you know, you also wanting to do something different and feeling, you know, that there's an opportunity there to develop and stuff. So yeah, that was really everything. I mean, everything's been a bit by chance, if you know what I mean. It hasn't been, I was looking to start this, but it just sort of, everything just started falling into place to do something like that. So I'm sure every case is different.
Yeah, but I'm sure that it wasn't by chance. It was because you worked hard and you.
Of course. There was also that, and eagerness, and you know, you're 27, 28, you see these bands you love, and you think, wow, you know, I want to work with these guys. And you know, we did have always like support. There was always people around that if you were unsure about something, you could always call someone who's maybe been there a bit longer and ask for their advice and see how things would work and stuff. But like I said, I think as well, maybe like 10 years ago, the market wasn't as mature it is now. There's people that were also starting the same as you, learning. People maybe, you know, that weren't learning maybe internationally, but weren't learning nationally and stuff that you could depend on and count on. And I think kind of now the Spanish market is a lot mature. There's people who have bands who are successfully internationally that you can call and say, okay, how does touring in the US work? You know, what do I need? You know, how, you know, simple little things like knowing how tax works in the US. You know, it's just seems like little things, but when you don't know, it can become a big thing and a big problem. So so every little bit helps, you know.
And from your experience, which are the key elements to an entrepreneurial project in the creative industries be successful?
It's a difficult question, because every project is so different, and it really depends on what you're working on within the music industry. You know, there's so many different areas that you can go on and work on. You know, from maybe more like management kind of side, is learning how to develop the artist well, learning to create a team around the artist, because at the end of the day, it's not going to be just you. I mean, an artist has requirements, so is knowing how to build, you know, try and find a good label who's going to be able to work the artist and develop the artist, and from there, you know, build a good PR team, not only, you know, in Spain, but internationally. I always think it's really important for an artist, especially in Spain, that obviously it's important to develop them abroad, but you should always focus and work in the artist in your own country. So if you're a Spanish artist, it's important for you to be strong in Spain if you can, and work outwards. And then, you know, working from there to build like a good booking agent and stuff. So it's just, I don't know, enthusiasm, know-how, and trying to sort of build the team around what you're doing and trying to make it the best you can. But I think that question is, it really depends what you want to do in the music industry and how you want to work it. Obviously, apart from the management thing, we always did a lot of like booking. And one thing we started like live in Dallas in 2015 or 2016, I'm not sure now, was apart from working with Spanish artist management, we started working with international artists in Spain to do booking. And that was something kind of that happened because we saw there was like a gap there, that there wasn't that many maybe bookers at the time who were doing like electronic music and stuff, and maybe some artists would just come into Spain to do one show or two, and you think, well, you know, they could be playing in Sevilla or Valencia or Bilbao, San Sebastián, and they weren't playing as much as they could play. So just thinking, okay, well, maybe there's an opportunity there to speak with the agents and say, okay, well, I'll help you develop the artists here. So I think it's always just keeping your eyes open to new ideas, and just sort of seeing how you can try new things and see if they work or not. Stuff.
Okay, and maybe the next question is a bit reflective, but let's see if you think that it's okay. What things would you change if you had to do it again regarding your professional career?
Well, things I would change. That's a good question. I think I would have, when we started this, kind of the relationship you had with your artist was nearly more like friends, which over time has changed into friendship, but also a business relationship, you know? I think I would have sort of told myself to know that difference earlier, you know? Because obviously at the beginning, the people you work with is people that, you know, you have that friendship with, and then over time it develops both ends and stuff. So of knowing, you know, kind of that your friendship will change, and that what you're really starting is a business. So there's going to be things that you have to separate at a certain point, you know. I think kind of that's one of the things I would have told myself, not in a negative way, just something to be aware of, that, you know, maybe you're friends who start with 20 years, but if the project grows, it becomes a business and you need to treat it as such and stuff. And know how to differentiate. I think kind of that's one of the things. I don't know if I would have changed many other things, because everything's been like a real like learning curve, and it's something you need to learn as well, make mistakes, and knowing the mistakes are there, and knowing how to change those mistakes and learn from them. So I don't know, I changed one job, which at the time when I changed, I thought it might have been a mistake, which was to do more to take care of Spanish bands internationally. And it was an incredibly difficult job, because it was like you're trying to work Spanish bands outside of Spain, and it was like you know, like they say in Spain, picando piedra. You're like sending loads of emails, no one's getting back to you, you don't know what to do. And at the time, maybe I thought, you know, kind of, you know, what have I done? Why have I changed? But now when I reflect back, it was like I learned a lot. It gave me time to learn how every market worked, how the differences worked in like France to UK to Germany. I met a lot of people, because I was attending a lot of fairs at the time, having loads of meetings, and it helped me learn like a lot at the end of the day. So I know things change over time. Maybe things that you think might have been a mistake, in the end it was maybe something that was difficult at the time, but you know, you managed to learn a lot from it at the same time, you know? So yeah, difficult. It's a difficult question, hard to say.
Yes, and maybe the next one is even more difficult. But how do you see the industry nowadays, and which changes do you think that we are going to be facing?
Oof, obviously, the industry right now is going through a very difficult time through the whole COVID thing. From everything really, from clubs which have closed in the whole of Spain, so obviously there's no music there. From obviously festivals which have been affected all summer, from venues who are affected from not having concerts, and obviously this has a knock-on effect on the whole industry, from people like myself who work doing booking management, to artists, to people who have running the venues, from production, from light engineers, from sound engineers, from even waiters and waitresses who work in the venue. So obviously this has had a huge knock-on effect on everyone. Hopefully it will change soon. The future, well, at the moment I'm trying to be optimistic. It's still early days. I think this year obviously it's going to be very hard for anything indoors to happen in the autumn unless something changes radically. I'm hoping over these next 4 or 5 months that with everything that's going on, the medicine gets better, people can be treated in a certain way so the risk is not as high as it was when it started, and maybe that before the vaccine that hopefully things can happen. Obviously over the summer there's been concerts outdoors with social distancing that have gone more or less well, and at least something's happened. But at the same time I want to be optimistic, thinking that when things return, obviously there's going to be difficulty with something, but there's also going to be a lot of opportunity. And people who are learning how this works, maybe it's a good time for them to come, and it's going to be a new market, new way of doing things, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for them to work new artists and stuff. So within the bad, I'm trying to be optimistic and think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities, a lot of new things happening when everything comes back, and it's going to be things. I think things are going to take a time before they get back to where they were, but I think kind of maybe new blood will come in, new artists, new people in the industry that maybe will bring in new ideas. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think kind of one of the major changes is everything's been a lot more digitalized over the last few months. Obviously, I think concerts will return. That nothing will replace the feeling of a concert. But I think certain online things might start happening a little bit more. I think online content that brings value, not just a simple concert that looks the same. I think things that go a little bit further, where there's maybe an idea, a concept behind the stream with amazing lights, and there's kind of brings something else than just the band playing. From a really special concert to a Q&A to like something like Nick Cave did, doing a piano set in Alexander Palace. I don't know, something that is a bit unique might still be able to work as it was. Like I said, I don't think that will replace the feeling of a live concert and people attending a live concert. But I do think there's, people are developing ideas and stuff over the next few months that might, live together with concerts. Maybe not as often, but I think. But I don't know. I want to be optimistic and think obviously this year's been very difficult, and I doubt from now to the end of the year things will happen. But next year, I'm trying to be hopeful that things can start again to a certain point.
And which skills do you think that we should have in the future to reinvent ourselves and to see these opportunities that you mentioned?
Skills. Well, so kind of one of the skills, which is not even a skill, is having like enthusiasm for the job and trying to learn time how things work, why they work this way, why they don't work that way. I'm not sure if that's a skill, but that's someone that each person has, whether to push them along, not just to be happy just doing one thing, but knowing how everything works. Obviously over the last 10 years, the whole how things work digitally has changed completely. I mean, just simple things from like when I started doing press in Cinnamon, we would send CDs to every single journalist, and now it's like, you know, everything's online and stuff. But the thing is, you could already see it happening back then, and you know, and it's just seeing these things and saying, okay, well, this works this way, but why can't it work another way, which will work better in doing things like that? So I'm not sure how to describe these kind of skills, because I think, you know, it's a bit of wanting to learn, wanting to see how you can develop certain things within the industry, being open to change. You know, just because a thing's been done a certain way all the time doesn't mean it has to remain that way. You know, you can always change. And I think you always have to be open-minded with these things. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the industry. If you've been 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, it's always interesting to learn the new technologies, to learn how to adapt to them. Because otherwise, you know, to a certain point, you get left behind, you know. And I think it's interesting, everything that happens and stuff. And it's interesting to try and keep up to date with how things are going. And the only way you can do that is by being engaged, attending things like, you know, fairs, attending talks, and just trying to keep updated with how everything is going. So I'm not sure if anything I've described is a skill, but I think it's something that comes from within, and it's something that you need to want to do when you're working in this and stuff. So yeah.
No, that's great. That's great. And maybe you already answered, but in one sentence, which advice could you give to a person or to a young girl or boy that he or she wants to start a new project now or tomorrow?
Just go for it. Just reach out to people you like, reach out to agents, managers that you like, you know, send them an email, you know, things you like to do. I mean, I always find it interesting when I meet new people who are entering the industry, and maybe they just started a really small booking agency, but the acts are really cool and small, and just meet them for a coffee, just see what they say, see how stuff. It's always interesting kind of trying to do that, reach out to people and learn. And then, you know, if you want to maybe, you know, learn how things work a little better, I think over the last few years, attending certain seminars, attending certain fairs is always interesting. I personally learned like that in when we all started, the companies we worked for always sent us to places. So I went to South by Southwest, I went to Eurosonics, I went to these places, and I went to all the talks. You know, I went to the talks and I learned a lot from those talks. Now, when I go, obviously some of the things they say is like I do day to day, so maybe it's not as interesting for me. But I always, even now, learn something new that I thought, well, I didn't think that maybe that does work. I remember going when I used to go to those fairs at the beginning. I would go to loads of them, like in the mornings. You know, they tend to happen in the morning, and then go to the concerts in the evening. And you know, you do pick up a lot of things. And when you go to these places as well, you end up meeting a lot of people and discussing things. So I think, you know, you need to be engaged. You need to reach out to people. You need to go to these events, and you know, when you have doubts and stuff like that, and you have a good relationship with people who've maybe been longer, just ask. You know, it's always, you know, people, I like to think in what we do, people are quite open and happy to help. And I think kind of that's, apart from working, that's one of the ways I personally learned. You know, from I didn't go to a course or anything, university, to try and learn. You know, I'm sure that would help, but going to these places and seeing talks by people who worked in the different industries and reaching out to them has always really helped me, and still helps me now, because, you know, whenever I have a doubt, I will reach out to someone and say, hey, you know, well, how did you do this, or how did this work, or, you know. So it's important to be able to, you know, have that relationship with people, and not be shy to reach out, you know, and ask for help or advice.
Mm-hmm. Wow, amazing. And thanks for all your knowledge. This is going to be the last question. And as you know, we always invite to the LEINN Arts talk to people that transmit passion and enthusiasm for the things that they do in their daily life or in their profession. So the question is, How would you describe this feeling of working in something that excites you a lot, like something that you are super passionate about?
Well, it's a funny feeling because it's like when I was younger, I didn't know why I wanted to work in. So when you don't know, you're just like, what do I want to work in and stuff. And when you're working on something that you're happy, and even though I was happy, that trust me, there are moments where you are very stressed, where you're very nervous, and it can be hard as well. So it's not all amazing, because at the end of the day, it's a job and it's stress as well. But you feel like the day-to-days just go quicker, and you see friends around who maybe not as happy with their jobs, and you think how fortunate you are to be working on something that you are happy in and stuff. And even though there's days which are hard, in the long run, you do find yourself to be quite fortunate to do this and stuff. And obviously in my case, I've been very fortunate to be lucky and have worked in projects where I've worked and been able to live from this. But I think kind of right now that the industry in Spain has been growing a lot over the last 10 years. There's companies in every state. Every state has their own or record label or promoter who are doing concerts there. So it's interesting that doesn't matter where you live, there's going to be something nearby you, I'm sure, that you can work on and start working on and learn from. And then if you choose to go somewhere else, to go. And it's always interesting that these things are happening everywhere. So I'm very fortunate, and I'm very fortunate, really.
Thank you very much for all your notes. It was very inspiring to
Thank you guys.
No, it was amazing. And we had Fernando in this LEINN Arts talk. It was such a pleasure. So the LEINN Arts talk are launched by the LEINN Arts degree in Entrepreneurial Leadership and Innovation in Arts and Creative Industries. And we hope that we can see each other in person in any time, and we can